G'day, money miners.
G'day, Matty.
G'day, Trav.
Ali GC. Hey, thanks for joining us. You know what Ali GC and Axie's mining technology have in common?
Both legends.
They both just fucking work.
That is all you need to know.
All you need to know.
We trust Ali GC as our one and only ever employee. And you should trust Axis as the only people for a gyro or an Ori.
100%.
Love it.
What do we got today, Matty?
Oh, mate, what, GC, you've pumped out a bloody bit of a cameo appearance.
Bit of a cameo today.
The death of gold developers.
Yeah, a bit morbid, but
Whoa.
seems to be the case.
Yeah. Buddy, we were a bit late on. Meteoric had their scope and study out yesterday, so we're going to do I've figured out I know nothing about rare earths and I still don't.
Dunning-Kruger effect comes to mind, Matty.
I'm going to be hung out to dry based on the little info I give. But whatever, highly recommend. Listen to Mike Bevan's one when it comes out instead of mine. It's better. JD, what do you got? It's a bit of Silvercorp M&A.
Yeah, deal's falling apart at the final hurdle. So gonna get into that one.
They can't catch a break, Silvercorp, mate. Fuck.
No.
All Corp slipped through the fingers nowadays.
There are a couple parallels with the All Corp saga, which we'll get into.
I'll be getting some emails after that one probably. Trav, what do you got? You've come up with a little bloody special.
Well, I just gonna say what I'm looking out for in the quarterly season ahead, other than waterfall charts, but just around the grounds. What are the big things to keep an eye on? Yeah,
very good. Righto. Ali GC, Employee of the Week and Employee of the Month.
One of one.
We're going to put you up as Employee of the Week every week.
I love that.
Forever. LinkedIn marketing. What's going on? The death of WA gold developers.
So Whoa. So this is a bit of an homage to my my maiden episode on Money of Mine, and I thought it'd be good time to do a bit of a welfare check on our welfare check probably is the right word to use on our gold explorer and developer friends. And I'll start the segment ding ding ding. I do own a few of these players, which we'll discuss today: De Grey, Osgold, and Orogold. Get that out the way.
Speaking of welfare checks, just checking.
Yeah.
Do you feel included here?
I feel very included, Maddie.
Thanks.
No, all good. Love and life.
I reckon you probably are going to end up mentioning Spartan too, which JD owns, and
so we'll do a ding ding for that one as well.
Beauty.
So a lot of people thought this year would be the year of the gold developer or the gold explorers, given the pretty big gold price run in the last 12 months. And it's actually been quite the opposite. And the value gap between producers and developers and explorers has just kept widening.
A few things come to mind there. One is, JD interviewed Vass of Collins Street, and they've notably, I think they've even started, a special purpose fund to buy a bunch of these.
A special situations fund. Vass comes to mind, like you've said, as well as Headley and Line Selection. There's a couple of groups getting quite busy in that, developer sort of projects below the threshold and not getting much love.
Yeah, we even just saw Line go 19% on Saturn, the heat bleach jobby. So, mate, she's all go.
All go. So what's happened since a year ago? So pretty much all explorers and developers other than Spartan continue to be extraordinarily cheap. So if we look at the relative share price graph here, I've popped in about 20 different WA advanced explorer, gold explorer developers in there. And on average, they're 12% down.
Yeah.
US gold price is up 23% in the same period.
So that blue one is
Spartan.
Spartan, obviously.
I've excluded Spartan from that average.
US gold's up 23%. Think of AU dollar gold.
And then AU.
And that's up even more, so then they should be indexed to the AU gold rather than US.
To be clear, Ali, you're specifically circling projects in WA?
Yeah, that's right.
Wow. And
so if we look at the flip side, gold producer equities have been performing, and again, these are predominantly West Aussie-based producers, been performing amazingly well, up on average 35% and also outpacing the US gold price at least. So the value gap between explorers and developers in WA versus producers is almost 50% in the last year.
Yeah.
That outlier in the equities is very interesting.
It is.
Orabanda.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Talk. They haven't really made money yet properly.
Wow. Orabanda. Is that Red 5?
Red 5's
Red 5's up there
the next
too.
one. They're starting to hit the straps, but the Orabanda's an interesting one.
Yeah, that's right. So why is this the case? So for a lot of these WA gold explorers and developers, having a look through a few of them, there hasn't been many material steps forward or progress with their assets since 12 months ago. And even with the ones that have taken some sort of, step forward or grown their asset base or further de-risk their project since a year ago, that this is absolutely not reflected in the share price whatsoever. And for a lot of these companies, their cash balances are dwindling. So from an investor perspective, it's like, what's the incentive to own these companies now and fund them now when they're probably going to be cheaper and more de-risked in 6, 12, 18 months' time, which then creates a problem for these companies to get funding and further progress these assets. And then this vicious cycle just keeps continuing.
Because as you said, there's no indication they're going to start mining soon because nothing started mining.
No.
Really, on that smaller end. There's been a lot sitting there with like brownfields projects that could have started mining, but besides, some very small snatch and grabs here and there.
With a small market cap, it's hard to fund these things into production as well. And then you've got like the vicious cycle of having to raise equity and dilute more and all that sort of stuff. And the corporates are really yet to be acquisitive in the space, and that's kind of sometimes what kicks off the re-rate of the junior end, but
we haven't really seen it. No. And I mean, just to your point earlier, like there hasn't been many feasibility studies released this year, and there's even a shorter list of that list that were even mildly compelling or getting people's attention. And I mean, we've spoken about on the show pretty regularly that probably a lot of these have, likely undercooked their CapEx estimates too. De Grey's an example which we've spoken about the show. Magnetic is another one. $93 million CapEx this is for everything, including a 1.8 million tonne per annum processing plant. And I figure out the rest as well. I just don't know how that works, but anyway.
You just put a zero on it because, you don't have to even build a plant there. Just send it to a different plant nearby. Send it to Mount Morgan's.
Easy.
Who cares if you make the CapEx too high, you won't get funded.
No.
Keep it a bit lower so you get funded, then you can raise the rest
fine.
Later on.
And then, people are obviously still very scarred from that era of single asset gold developers going into production and then, having to do multiple save raises, or in the recent case of Calidus, actually, going under. And people are just generally steering a bit clear or at least skeptical. And we're seeing in the producers, there's so much value being attributed to economic ounces that are producing cash, or in the case of, say, some of those undeveloped assets, the ones that have got a very clear pathway to making a lot of cash, and then that pathway is not too long either. And that's getting way more value attributed than a resource ounce, which just seem to be worth, pennies these days.
Yeah.
One thing I've probably learned as well is, there's a lot of undeveloped assets, gold assets here in WA, and a lot of them have scale over, a million ounces. But just because they're over a million ounces or a few million ounces doesn't actually mean they're good. All that really matters is you can make money from them, and quickly. Doesn't matter really how big it is, how great the grade is. Obviously, that's a factor. But, what's the met like? Is there, 10 different pits, the depth of the ore body, the geometry, the strip ratio, grade uniformity? There's so many things that come into mind. And I'm not sure that many of the undeveloped gold assets in WA at the minute even tick sort of half of those boxes.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty tricky one.
Even the ones that, people are excited about and stuff like that. Was it like Tower Hills, an undeveloped one? I know it's within Genesis portfolio, but like even the strip ratio there is like in the 9s, isn't it, Matty?
Oh, geez, maybe. Yeah, I think it was, but it's got stonking grade.
Amazing.
stonking great.
Ali, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Like, if the good projects at the end of the day will find the capital. And I think there are projects out there, a few sort of come to mind, and they'll get the money and they'll be built in time. And a lot of these ones are sort of below par. Maybe they need a real kick on in the gold price to make them look more attractive, and then they'll sort of find the capital.
But what do you think about, how do you look at De Grey the book demand for those raises that De Grey did compared to and how much money is that wanted to flow into a low grade refractory operation that is freaking huge and comes with a lot of risk compared to money flowing into a smaller scale 1 million ounce operation that, geez, you'd think you mightn't make as much, but you mightn't lose as much as you could on De Grey.
Yeah.
Something that scale.
I think just because there's nothing really out there that's quite like it, so people almost feel compelled that I want to be part of a 500,000 ounce odd producer. Yeah, it's got some, things to think about, like the refractory nature. They're going to have a POX plant there as well. It's the ore's coming from, multiple pits. How does that all kind of blend in that processing plant, and it's just huge, and getting up a single asset company to get something like that up, we bloody hope they do, be fantastic, but it's not without its challenges. But I think that's also a bit of the allure of De Grey for these investors as well.
It's liquidity too, Matty. Yeah. How can you put $3 million to work in a junior and actually ever sell that?
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah, you can't get it out.
Yeah.
But also, what else do you choose from in the undeveloped space? Okay, there's De Grey. Okay, maybe there's Spartan, but outside of those,
going overseas.
Yeah, in Western Australia or even in Australia, it's almost like this is your subset, and if people want to allocate capital there, that's the pool.
Yeah.
So I think it's a bit of that as
well. I think you're spot on, but I don't think that's the right way that any investor should really look at it, right?
No.
You're looking at any opportunity out there and what's my return going to be for the risk that I'm taking on.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to go and, put money just because you really want to an undeveloped gold project in WA, like that's a funny way to sort of carve it out. So it all comes down to the returns for capital allocators at the end of the day.
That's right.
Would you do you think the capital providers, if you go through the last few years of operations that have come on, not just gold, but other operations that have been developed, and the freaking issues and risk that is associated, do you reckon they're just spooked with confidence? Like even 100%. Like Bellevue was the standout bloody grade and like free cash flow generator, and look, even they've just appear to have got through by the skin of their teeth, ramping up a project that had extremely high grade.
It's happened more often than not.
They need a bit of Dutch courage.
No, and I mean, like, it's the poor guys in the gold junior space. I mean, it's been a bit of a shit time, and I mean, unless you're Spartan, of course. But I think something that could really turn it around for these guys is getting verified.
Ah,
there you go.
Whoa.
So
yeah,
why?
So
why not?
Why not? But these juniors, they've got limited funds. They need to spend them, appropriately and judiciously. They can use VRIFY AI to leverage all their existing data. They already have GFIS, Geochem, their drill hole database, all that, to officially generate drill targets. The AI even tells you what has driven it to determine those areas as drill targets. So the geos can make a very informed decision about, okay, this is what I'm going to do with my next drill program. And then once you've done that, Matty, then you get yourself a VRIFY model. So you can show your deposit to all your investors in 3D.
That just needs to be screen recorded and taken to a bank. This is why you should give us money to fund our project, because we are tick, 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 doing what Ali GC told us to. Take action.
take action. And I mean, the people, honestly, like the people who are still using PowerPoint these days are probably the same people who are reading the Mining News Daily email 3 hours after the director's special. Like, you're in the dark ages. Come on.
Give yourself an uppercut.
Get verified.
Oh, fuck.
Ali, you're working super hard to make as many friends as you possibly can in the first full week.
Talk about fitting right in. Oh, good work, GC. When do you think can you sense it's like there needs to be a confidence catalyst or something. What do you think's going to turn it around? Because you can't say that they're going to wait for the gold price to go up because it's already gone up.
Maybe corporates come in and actually do start bidding, and then all of a sudden they re-rate. You know, it's kind of like when BHP bids for bloody Anglo. All of a sudden, all the copper equities re-rated. So
I think it's going to take that will take a bit longer to play out, because we're seeing at the minute a lot of these goldies, even though these undeveloped assets are so cheap, right? Not all of them are great, but you know, some of the even quite good ones are quite cheap. They've chosen to allocate their capital internally, whether that's expansions at their existing assets, so like Northern Star with a super pit, or, you know, developing near mine, you know, pits and undergrounds like Catalyst with that Trident deposit, or they're just exploring their own ground. Like, you know, I think Westgold had almost a dozen exploration rigs at their site. So what does that say about if a producer reckons they're going to get a better MPV for dollar of capex or exploration dollar that they spend internally? What does that say about what's out there as far as undeveloped assets in these sort of single asset companies?
Yeah. But God, now is if you're a small producer, pending producer, and you want gear people, now is the time to do it, because it's all
100%.
come off. There's like, you know, underground, just talking the underground lens, there is fucking gear parked up everywhere, and contractors wanting contracts. With that comes lower prices. And like now, it just feels like now is the time it needs to start happening because while it's down here, it goes back up very quickly. And
no, that's right.
The old sine wave.
Yeah, I reckon there's a comment about just the nature of gold miners and gold ore bodies or whatever. For whatever reason, like gold companies are pretty much the worst of the lot in terms of cost control. And in some ways it's because of the ore bodies themselves. You have to constantly reinvest capital. They get lower grade over time, blah, 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 blah. But they never really like pay out much in the way of a dividend at all, unless you're a West African gold producer. So.
And once the mine ends, they have to spend the money they make on keeping the gold coming from somewhere else. Just keeps going like that.
No, that's right. And I mean, eventually it will come to a crunch point where there are some producers who don't have the biggest mine life, where they're not replenishing those reserves as much as they're producing, and they're going to have to do something. But also on the flip side is these explorers and developers can't keep operating like this for too much longer. So what are they going to do? And I think ahead, and we're already starting to see some of this already, is I think we're going to see a few survival mergers between explorers and developers just to keep an existence.
Keep relevance in some
and keep
scale.
relevance.
Yeah.
Does it make logical sense? I mean, Kin and PNX is an example. I think that's
director synergies.
Director synergies. I think there's going to be a bit of dumb or expensive for what it is M&A for the sort of mediocre assets.
And a lot of that, as you say, for survival.
Yep.
Like continuation of gold output.
Yep.
Need to find it somewhere.
Need to find it somewhere. And the good assets, which is not a lot of left, very expensive and highly competitive. There might be a few uncompelling standalones that somehow make it, but probably shouldn't exist. And then there's probably a few smarter standalones who recognise, the risks that they're going to take on as a standalone and share that with a producer. So, they mine and someone else produces. I mean, we've seen, Brightstar do that recently. Horizon and Black Cat have signed toll milling and ore purchase agreements and things like that. So maybe that's what might happen because people are scarred from single asset companies trying to do all of this themselves. So maybe there's a more sharing of infrastructure and resources.
And risk as well.
And risk financially and operationally going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got any crystal ball predictions, GC, of what bloody because you've been in the at the coalface of small gold coming out of the bloody your previous role before this, like you were in the boxing ring.
Yeah. So one I thought might be a little bit of a left field one, but we sort of spoke about earlier today is Ramelius' strategy around Spartan. Now, they've locked away 18%. They've stated they have, subject to various qualifications, no intention to make, or current intention to make a takeover. How do they – it's pretty obvious that, it will happen at some stage to but what does that look like? Do they let Spartan, charge ahead, ramp up, get into production? Something, as it sort of more often than not tends to happen, is there's ramp up issues and they pick up that 82% much cheaper and they're betting on that. Or as you were saying, Maddie, earlier today, what if they find another Never Never or another Pepper and it becomes twice as more expensive? So I'm not sure how they might go about that, but it's not the first time we've seen people go an expensive first 20% to then get a cheaper 80% later.
Yeah, I don't know. There's metallurgy and just plant performance uncertainty, obviously, with Spartan, but like that ore body and that mine, what they've proven up. The Pepper's been the kicker because it's like taken away worries about the ounce per vertical metre queries on that operation. So it's sort of negated that a bit. And there's just nothing out there like it at the moment.
No.
That you can see as a pretty simple bloody thing to mine, bloody thick. It's not a narrow vein ore body where you're going to get a lot of grade variability due to dilution. Like it is bloody thick, unless the whole hanging wall bloody drops in.
Oh, they did some smearing in the results up today. I saw someone post on LinkedIn about that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is thick. You're right. It is thick.
Yeah. It's that's why I think it's the big question for Ramelius is, do we just buy the whole thing now before it gets away?
Well, Ali's theory about them, potentially waiting until, because it can't get away from them because no one else can buy it, right? They control the ultimate outcome. Like you can't buy it without Ramelius sort of saying yes now.
I mean the price getting away.
Price is a factor, but if to Ali's point, if something typically goes wrong and ramp up, but for them to wait for that assumes that Ramelius can afford to wait. And remember, they're trying to backfill their own, like absolute just falling off a cliff of production that they've got around the corner. So I just think the timing thing is a factor as well on whether or not they play the waiting game.
Yeah, they can only really wait so long.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. What else? I'm sensing a Murchison prediction.
Yes. So I think there's a bit you can imply from inaction. And one example of that is sort of again, sticking with the sort of Murchison region. You saw Westgold, who haven't, to my knowledge, have done a deal like this at least in a very long time, do this strategic alliance and ore purchase, looking to organise an ore purchase agreement with Ora Gold. Now, mind you, they just put out a resource 5 months ago. Meek Metals, Great Boulder, and Odyssey have all existed in that region a lot longer, have all had their resources, or in Meek's case, even a feasibility study out there, a lot longer. Little old Aura pops up, puts something out, and Westgold acts on that and not on any of the others. Does that sort of cement the other's status as, are they sort of stranded assets? They've got to figure out their own processing solution.
Maybe, yeah. It's also not completely obvious that they haven't had discussions or inquiries. It's just sort of none of it's materialised in the public domain.
But do you think they would have...
they would have done something by then, is what I'm trying to say.
Would have tipped in because they've all had plenty of placements, the raisings that they've conducted, all those ones you've mentioned. And, yeah, I suppose Westgold would have had the option to tip into those as a cornerstone, and they obviously haven't, to my knowledge, I don't think. Well, remember, Westgold had the Altos stake that they then sold back to Zeta. But I'm not sure they might have sub 5% stakes in the others.
No, I don't think that.
Oh, because it'd be on as a listed investment, wouldn't it?
Yeah, in the annual statements. Yeah, I don't think they've got any listed investments at all, I don't think they've got any listed investments at all.
Besides Aura now.
Yeah. So I don't know if that sort of says something. And that, I think, sort of goes to my earlier point. I mean, that's not the only example of it. That's this corporate inaction and this sort of focus inwards on the existing portfolio, seeing a lot more of that than sort of looking outwardly.
Yeah. Well, and I think the decline of the equities in the juniors has exponentially slowed everything down. Can I say exponentially slowed? You know what I mean.
Exponential decay.
Because all their share prices have dropped considerably, which means, one, they're less inclined to raise capital because their share price is down, and if they do, they can't raise as much. And that just slows down everything. Exploration, slows down any sort of progress towards developing or studying or everything. And we've just been in that limbo for fucking what?
At least 2 years.
2-3 years. But when it's flying and the cash is coming in, things can get done quicker. You can get more people to progress things, more consultants, more bloody potential to get gear, and you're away. So we're in a holding pattern. You'd say.
Love it. So that's
we don't own Qantas shares. It's
awesome, Ali.
That was good. You got me thinking.
Yeah.
So what's the overall conclusion? The GC's eyes are on it.
I think the overall conclusion is any new discoveries that fit that economic ounces quick or just ounces in general that are quicker to get into cash flow mode are just going to be rated so much more and will attract the funding. And if you're not in that stage, I think it's still going to be a pretty gloomy period ahead.
Yeah.
And these producers have got so much optionality, it's not funny. They could pick up any of these guys if they wanted to. I don't think money is really no object to them if they wanted it and it made sense for them. But at the moment, it seems like the focus is a lot more internal.
It's like who's going to blink first, but
little bit.
Yeah, but the Rex thing yesterday is an example of like one of those. Yeah, there's so many Rexes of the gold industry.
Yeah, even Mount Bundy selling for $300 million.
Like you think of like, oh God, you can rattle them off like Alto, Osgold, like Medallion. Like there's so many projects that are just Astral. So many projects that are sitting there just running around conferences waiting to get bought. And will it take some international investment to swoop them up? I'm not sure. It's interesting times. I can see on the back of GC's episode a pivot.
emanate
pivot.
from. Yeah,
the catalyst.
Actually,
No,
100%.
Pardon the pun. No, ding, ding, ding.
And like, I remember in 2020, like, it's amazing how fast the market can turn as well. You know, like all of a sudden, the thing that's completely out of vogue can be rapidly in vogue. And the junior undeveloped golds they just flew in the space of a month. It was just crazy, and they all re-rated like
so quickly.
3x. It happened. It's all doom and gloom, and then it's not very, very fast sometimes.
Yeah. I think if you've been given an offer by a company or something, let us know and we'll cover your story. No, you're not allowed to do that.
Maddie, you're in the rare earth territory today.
Meteoric.
You got to give us something for us to give you something.
Yeah, we offer no favourable coverage to anyone ever in exchange for anything.
Well, if you give us good info, we might.
Won't be able to impact my analysis.
Right, rare earths. Meteoric. Scope and study released yesterday. Negative reaction to it. Down 30% in 2 days. Oof. Pretty conclusive as to why. We'll go through the deck here. It's essentially the scoping study is a bet or a hedge on the rare earth market. So, because they've got, $51 a kilo spot price in the deck for NdPr, which I assume that 51 is, we see like 43.50 in the morning, but I think that includes the value added tax. So latest price I said today was 49.50. So that spot price scenario gives a post-tax MPV of 16 million, which ain't good. But the longer-term pricing forecasts from Adamus are at $111 a kilo, so over double. That gives 700 mil MPV. And the capex jumped significantly from what was sort of predicted and modelled. So they've got US 403 mil, which includes a 35% contingency, and that was 43% higher than what was previously modelled by Canaccord. So
that's where the market's sort of spooked the books. Yeah,
and the payability is an interesting number. 70%. They said their payability on the. I'm not going to lie. There's so many. This is so complicated, and I don't fully understand it. Whether that's payability on the recovered NdPr or the both that and the basket of rare earths. And anyway, so don't grill me too much on the comments. But we'll get into China later. But the payability from China on rare earths is a point of conjecture, you'd say, on the street. So now the scenario they put out includes, it's just a one-stage operation with the southern licenses. I'll bring up the map. Soberdo and Capadumel. Wouldn't even be close to pronouncing that right. But there's a resource update scheduled in the September quarter for the Figuera deposit to the north, which could bring some more high grade into the further studies. So we asked the question to Mike Bevan, Mr. Geo Invest, when he was on the show about the scale of these operations compared to the incumbents like your Linus and MP Materials. So, and we've got a bit of an answer today. So I'll show you Linus's sales volumes for the last 4 quarters last year, around 6,000 tonnes of NdPr sold. And they're targeting around double of that in the coming years, are targeting around 12,000 tonne of NdPr. MP Materials, which has got the Mountain Pass mine in California. Morgan Stanley model for that shows Mountain Pass pumping out about 6,000 tonne of NdPr by 2026, about half of what Linus are aiming for. Meteoric's Caldera, which we're talking about right now, looking to recover about 3,000 tonne of NdPr per annum. So about half of what Linus got last year and about a quarter of what they're aiming for. So there's the scale answer. Sure, there's potential for bloody bigger. This is for a 5 million tonne operation at Caldera, which is what's in the study. So what the world of rare earths will look like in the future when this mine might be in operation, that is the big question, isn't it, Ricardinho?
There's a lot up in the air about this. The long-term dynamics of this market. Obviously, China play a massive role, but the West is working really hard to try and wean themselves off the China reliance, and that's going to require a lot more expertise and a lot more work on the downstream separation parts of the industry as well, but which currently it's not there yet, but it might be. And so it's kind of hard to know which price deck do you run here because all of that's a bit, up in the air.
And the fact that China have like the control over the final separation of rare earths, plus the fact that they mine around 60% of the rare earths as well, is talk about, as you said to me before, Travis, if there is any market that needs to be bifurcated or separated from China, it is rare earths. Because like you look at iron ore, lithium, for example, like there's a reliance on it all coming from around the world, and downstream processing in China. But this is all, over half of the world is mined rare earths is from China as well.
Yeah.
So this is a freaking Chinese stranglehold on this basket of elements.
I'm sure some people would argue that there's already evidence of bifurcation in the fact that the Japanese buyers of Linus's product pay more than is received elsewhere and stuff like that. So there's but you're right, because of that concentration factor with China. If you're ever going to see degrees of bifurcation, it's here. It might not materialize in like a spot price bifurcation, but just different customers paying different quantities. But kind of, you need to bolster out the downstream component in the West to be able to really see the light of data to some of that, I think, too.
Yeah, JD, this is speaking of a macro fucking analysis, this is where you need to interject.
I think that the super important point, guys, that Kingsley Jones first switched us onto a while ago is that even if you get the ultimate sort of downstream happening in the West, the actual demand for the rare earth magnet and products has to also be in that country, i.e. whatever the magnet and whatnot is used in has to go into an application that is manufactured in the States, if that's what we're talking about. And at the moment, that application, be that in an EV or whatever, is by and large getting done in China. So that's another element on top of what you guys have just laid out.
And that hits cost too. Yeah, if the windmill's getting manufactured in China or the EV or the
Dyson vacuum cleaner. Bloody, that's why Dyson suck the living shit out of everything. Rare earth magnets.
Mate, pixie dust.
Pixie dust. But they and that's why this whole payability of 70% on these rare earths might be very questionable, because when China have got all the control of that final separation of rare earths, like someone has told me that they might only pay 20 to 50%, depending on how they feel at the time on a mixed payability on a mixed rare earth carbonate. So, and because considering they mine 60% of it already themselves, so they can get their own. So a lot to play out on this macro scale for rare earths. So if there's an ex-China supply chain developed. So, while lithium's down, maybe rare earths might stay down as well until the EV fever returns. EV fever.
Do you reckon if Trump gets in that downstream supply chain, as far as in the US, will change quite dramatically?
Make America great again, eh?
Well, because Biden,
what was that? Was that 2 years ago when Biden was trying to sign the thing to try and secure rare earth supply chain in the US? Was that a year or two ago?
Yeah, a lot of it's centered around
the IRA.
Yeah, the IRA is one of the key bits of legislation. I don't think any of us are geopolitical experts, Ali, but one of the things a lot of people point to is that a lot of these jobs created are in the sort of heartland of America, a lot of Republican states and whatnot. But beyond that, I reckon people can get much better sort of news regarding what Trump's going to do if he takes office from other sort of sources.
Should have got Matty Warden to give a Trump comment. He's a Democrat. He'd bloody have some colourful comments about Trump, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, super interesting being a Democrat, also being where he's from in the heart of coal mining country in America is a interesting sort of position where I'm sure you get a lot from both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, very good. JD, what do you got for us, Cobber?
I saw this pop up today and I got a bit intrigued. So Silvercorp, as you mentioned in the intro, they were unsuccessful in their pursuit of OreCorp. And on the back of that, very shortly after failing to get their hands on OreCorp, they saw this company Adventus with a project in Ecuador, and they decided to have a go. And it looked until the last minute that it was going to go ahead, but we've had a bit of drama on the back of it.
Yeah, right. Did you say so Adventus? So you said Silverstone were trying to buy Adventus?
Silvercorp. Silverstone.
So was it Silverstone? Oh, right. I thought you said bloody sorry. I was in La La Land there. I was thinking, who's Silverstone buying?
I do know Kenny Keogh loves the silver.
He loves M&A too.
Yeah, he does. He's just all about it.
Yeah, right. So
even though Silvercorp doesn't produce too much silver these days.
Yeah, true. What a bloody if Silverstone were going to merge with anyone, who do you reckon? Smack.
Well, that's not a bad shout.
That's actually not a bad shout. So imagine if Silverstone could put all the power in there, and then Smack could run all the cable underground, and do all the. They got the HV ticket. That's a bloody that's a vertically integrated turnkey solution. Silverstone do a bit of bloody pipe work too. They could probably, they might even have a look at GetWet as well.
That's a lot of synergies.
Silverstone M&A.
They're powering the mining industry everywhere that you look, mate. There's just, you don't even quite notice it, but there's just signs of Silverstone were here everywhere you go. This room, I think Silverstone's powering it.
Yeah, they chucked the Jennies in for it.
Silvercorp's M&A room. If Silverstone were powering that, the deal would go through.
I reckon Silverstone take over Silvercorp.
The country of Thailand, Silverstone is powering.
Yeah.
Bali, Silverstone is powering.
They're going to be powering us onto a holiday, maybe. Just waive next month's payment.
We're going to get into reasons why this deal didn't go ahead, and reading between the lines, it very well could have been that they weren't planning on using Silverstone. Who knows?
They could be in discussions already.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Why didn't it go ahead, JD?
So it looked done and dusted, and you've got board approval, shareholder approval, court approval. It was all set to close last Friday, and then Silvercorp informed Adventus, the company they were buying, that one or more of the conditions, the key conditions, had not been met, and this constituted a material adverse effect. And then on the back of this, the Adventus share price has had a pretty bad fall from 49 cents down to 34 cents. So things are looking a bit shaky. Yeah. To give a bit of background on the deal, like I said, it came out on the back of Silvercorp not being able to buy OreCorp. So I think on the 26th of April is when they wanted to is when they agreed this deal, and they were keen for pretty clearly a development project. They didn't want to buy a mine. They wanted something that they could develop and see the returns on. So they fixed their eyes on Adventus, and Adventus are the majority owner of the El Domo Cupripamba copper gold project in Ecuador. Now the numbers actually
well done,
look
mate.
pretty
Good bloody pronunciation there.
Yeah, I thought so. Read through it a couple of times. They the numbers actually look all right on this one. So 60% IRR, NPV using 8% discount rate of US $308 million. So it's not a massive project at a US copper price of $3.50 a pound. So clearly a bit you can do on that front. With a capex of about $240 US, like I said, relatively small scale. They want to produce 21,000 tons of copper equivalent per annum, with 80% of the NSR to come from copper and gold. So all up, a $200 million Canadian all-scrip deal coming in at a 31% premium. And like I said, there were a couple parallels with the deal that they did with OreCorp. They launched a concurrent placement for Silvercorp to buy 15% of Adventus in newly issued scrip.
I've seen that before.
Yeah, that's very much one of the tricks in their playbook.
Yep.
So what's stalling the deal now, JD?
Mate, there's been a real spanner thrown in the works. So Silvercorp heard about a bit of litigation a few weeks ago now regarding the environmental license. Now, they heard about this via an announcement that Adventus put out. Silvercorp then approached Adventus a few weeks after hearing about it, this is last week, saying they weren't prepared to complete the deal on the previously planned timeline. Like I said, that would have wrapped up on Friday, as the litigation constituted a material adverse effect. This environmental license, obviously super important. Adventus had got that back in January. That's a big check of the box. That is one of the reasons why you're Silvercorp thinking, hey, this is development ready, this project. We've got a clear line of sight to being able to build the thing and mine and start a mine, really. So what they've done on the back of this, they've said, we're not walking away completely. We'll push the deadline out till July 31st and try and reach a deal and just monitor this litigation. Now, that litigation comes from a local third party with a bit of backing from a non-government organisation. So a bit hard to find too much detail, but it's not completely off-brand for what we've heard about in Ecuador. I know there's a very kind of similar situation playing out with Sol Gold also in country. So sort of getting that social and environmental license, obviously critical, and seems to be a bit of a hurdle in country there in Ecuador. So Adventus were really pissed off about this, you know, reading between the lines of their announcements, saying that this does not constitute a material adverse effect in their opinion, and they're determined to see the deal go through.
Yeah, right.
It's messy.
Bloody, I can't imagine when Casabel gets going in Ecuador. Geez, that'll be a bloody, big bloody humdinger.
Mate, imagine when Gina's deploying capital there. It's all happening there.
Mate, Ecuador, it's bloody gonna be renamed Hancock Island. It's not an island, but anyway. So right, where are we left in this Silvercorp Adventus saga, JD?
So, I mean, whenever I see these kind of announcements come out, I try and think, is this the real genuine reason why the deal's falling apart, or is the buyer just trying to hide behind some sort of legal excuse and find a legal reason why they can bail on the deal? In this instance, I think it's pretty genuine. Obviously, I don't have great insight into what goes on at Silvercorp. They're a predominantly Chinese company, or Adventus. But if you look at everything surrounding the deal, copper and gold, they're going all right. You can't say the commodity's fallen away. Ecuador is about as stable as it was 2 months ago. Nothing massive has changed on that front. Unless there's something quite specific to what Silvercorp has found out about the project that they weren't able to see prior to launching a bid that's really sort of turned them off, then, you know, you would have to think that it's rather genuine in what they're saying, and they think that this coming up has put the project at real risk and leaves its viability, you know, on much shakier grounds. But in the meantime, I just think it's one for the lawyers to kind of enjoy. They can get into it. They can assess whether the claim is legitimate, both the sort of the claim from the environmental group, and then you've got this the claim of whether this actually constitutes a key condition. That's one that they're going to butt heads on. Obviously, both companies are seeing differently on that. Then you've also got the break fee, a $10 million Canadian break fee. I'm sure Silvercorp would say that if one of the conditions wasn't met, then they don't have to pay the break fee. But I'm sure Adventus on the other side will fight that one too. So just taking a step back and looking at all of that, you have to think it's not great for the project if this, you know, environmental concern, which seems to be quite legitimate, is there. Whoever owns the thing, it's not going to be great. You don't have a lot of community approval when you've got parties like that challenging the rights to mine the project. So
it's never a good look when you're defending that it's not a material adverse event in some ways as well, because the read through is you're like, no, we've got to get the deal done, got to get the deal done. Because the alternative is now worse. So the read-through is you might not necessarily be comfortable. Not having the bid there and the market sort of reading through what the implications could be. I don't know the details of this, like potential litigation.
Completely agree.
Yeah, that's my interpretation.
And you can see in the screenshots that will flash up just the wording that Adventus have used. You know, we'll take all necessary steps and so on. The lawyers are having a bit of fun with it, and they are keen to get the deal done.
Oh, JD's a deal junkie.
It's all over it, mate.
JDJ,
nowhere near as
deal junkie
as much as Trav and Ali, but I found this one pretty intriguing.
Yeah, good work, Cobber. Trav, you cannot give any more information about what is going to happen this quarterly season in terms of advice, guidance, things to look out for. You are the quarterly clairvoyant.
Mate, I remember last year we had some fun. We did some shorts on quarterly translations. Yeah, should do some more of that. That'd be funny. But no, this time around, I'm just thought I'll keep it brief. Just a bit of a segment on themes to look out for this reporting season. Like what am I looking out for? Obviously, like the quarterlies are going to come in thick and fast in relation to the June quarter. Also, subsequent to that in August, you'll have a bunch of half year or full year results depending on the reporting cycle. There's a bunch of stuff to look out for. Some themes, I reckon FY25 guidance probably going to be disappointing to a lot of people. I reckon labour costs might be easing, but energy and consumables not. So cost pressure still pretty prevalent.
Why the FY25 guidance to disappoint?
I think a lot of majors have they've got mines rolling off and they don't have stuff to backfill. I think grades are declining and all that sort of stuff. I just think versus the models, a lot of that stuff might not necessarily be accounted for yet.
Yeah, nice.
Then
what about cash?
Cash generation. I reckon, the energy stocks, coal, oil and gas, they'll be making great money. I reckon even some of the decent copper names will probably show some good cash flow, I hope. Mid-cap golds, I think, will surprise to the upside, just given the buoyant gold market and moderate equity movements.
I think we've seen that already with Ramelius and Regis in the pre-quarterlies as well. Yep.
I think lithium's obviously bloody going to be under a lot of stress. Same, the one rare earth producer out there. But weather events, mate, always on the lookout for weather events.
Oh, yeah. And look, there has been some rain. There's been exploration companies not being able to drill due to rain in the last month or so.
It's like it's abnormal, but I reckon there's always fucking rain in Australia. So anyway, I just think you should make that into your base case that there will be rain and not advise guidance on the understanding there'll be no rain, because that's just a silly way to guide, my opinion. Looking at just maybe some bloated cost bases in the small cap end, like Ali talked to, might need some urgent reassessment to preserve equity value in some of those what were I don't know, a couple $100 million developers, which are now like $40 million developers. They've just built in a cost basis that's not sustainable, and they've got to have to readjust massively there. I'm going to talk about some companies very briefly, just what I'm looking out for. There's a category of the ramp up companies. So I'm on ramp up watch with Paladin and Boss Energy in the uranium world, both producing barrels, keen to get as much color as possible in their disclosures as they come out. Adriatic, we talked about in the past, and I'm looking forward to seeing some more detail now that we've got another quarter, and I'm hopeful that the quality of that ore body is gonna start translating into their production numbers. There, they've fallen off a fair bit since they raised equity, but in time, I think that ore body will come to fruition, and there'll be the benefits.
Once they're in the better ground in the ore, away from the shit ground in the capital, hopefully it'll start getting a bit of flow about it.
Totally. Bellevue, I mean, eyes on the cash, right? So, and guidance and costs and all that. So it's a big quarter for them, like it has been. I
reckon this is their D-Day quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're expected to be making cash now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Liontown. So, I mean, they're a bit earlier. They're not quite.
Yeah.
But still, keen to see how commissioning's going. Like, what wrinkles are they working through? Like, just keen to get some color on that.
I reckon they've given themselves another 3 months. Like, in terms of they won't have any metrics to release, but they're gonna.
Yes,
they've got a full quarter. Now. So it's probably been. I
agree. Yeah.
Timed by a month.
Yeah. BCI Minerals, so they're not even like in ramp up yet, still construction, but just lol on that one. Anyway.
What about the big boys? Big
miners. So I mean, BHP and Rio are a bit boring, but not expecting too much out of the ordinary there. I'm kind of excited about the organic growth, which will sort of come to fruition over time with Rio particularly. You look at Simandou and Oyu Tolgoi underground expansion going on there. I just think I'm just going to keep watching those numbers and what impact they're having there. FMG, I reckon like Iron Bridge in a lot of the broker model starts contributing a fair bit of ramp up into the broker models sort of from this quarter onwards and stuff. And I still kind of have a hunch that might disappoint. Yeah, we were talking last night about Gladstone, so on the lookout there and what that means. And then there's some word on the decline about Gabon, which isn't too positive, but that doesn't really account for much of their NAV. But let's see what they disclose.
You should get a private investigator onto them to see what they're actually up to.
Well played, Matthew. South 32,
Good
look,
footy.
I mean, the aluminium alumina bauxite market has improved substantially, and that's a big part of their business. So I suspect they'll actually have a much more cash generative quarter or even half year than we've seen in the one before that. I still can't believe they're bringing Hermosa online, but and let's see what other info we get about Gemco as well. Mittens we could talk about forever. It's all about the balance sheet, whether Chris wants to talk about it or not, but it's all about the balance sheet with them.
You think after all the years he doesn't know how to run a fucking balance sheet? Drives me insane.
I reckon he's going to keep getting questions about it, especially with the bridge facility on the whole road. Northern Star, I got a sense that it's not going to be a good quarter from them. Just getting that sort of sense. I think there's a lot of scuttlebutt about production and meeting tons and ounces and all that sort of stuff. But I think that stuff comes at the expense of margin when you're pushing hard there. And I suspect a lot of any free cash flow is obviously just going into the expansion as well. So
I got my eyes on Jundee. I wonder if those grades are going to keep declining.
Yeah. And that often hides a lot of wrinkles in the rest of the business because Jundee's such a cash cow, right? But And
they've bought a lot of these little satellite assets as well recently to try and fill the mill. And on face value, none of them really look, phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
So that sort of goes to your point there as well.
Evolution, pretty interested. Like copper and gold has run a fair bit, this half year. And look, they'd lofty FY24 guidance and they kept maintaining it the whole time. And the street was always saying, you're not going to meet your guidance, you're not going to meet your guidance. And I suspect they're not going to meet their guidance, but I reckon they'll get closer than most are expecting. And but they already said that a weather event or something. So
are you going to expect much out of North Parks?
They did an analyst tour there recently and showed everyone North Parks and everything like that. I'm keen to look at it, for sure. Yeah. Keen to.
Should make great money on the copper front the last quarter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like they said, 30% of the revenue. So
Sandfire is it's kind of an exciting one. I think if you look at just on a NAV basis, they're probably pretty fully valued. But they remain a standout acquisition target, and I'd be amazed if South 32 hasn't already articulated their interest. I'm looking to see how Mateo's costs are trending over time. I mean, ramp up's getting better. Hope the costs are coming down, and they're making really, really good money there. I
want to keep my eye on Black Butte over in Montana for Sandfire
totally.
as well.
Yeah,
hopefully bit of drilling over there. Interesting.
Big quarter for Whitehaven. Keen to see the contributions of Blackwater and Dornier since taking operatorship, and there's strong expectations for cash generation out of Whitehaven. I think it's that expectation is grounded in good analysis, and hopefully the performance has been really good of those assets since they've taken ownership. Pilbara Minerals, it's all about cash and unit costs. IGO, just keen to understand what their future looks like. I mean, I don't know. It's just a mystery company at the moment, but yeah. And then there's another category of companies that I've got my eye on for a different reason. They're not the ramp up companies. They're not the majors, but they're the companies that are experiencing balance sheet stress, and it's all about what's their balance sheet now. What's their bloody burn rate? What's the leverage, and how much more can they endure? Bowen Coking Coal fits this category. Group 6 metals, they're ramping up their tungsten mine. Aries is a regular occurrence there. So, and then 29 metals, I mean, we've talked about that to death. And then throw in Sheffield. I mean, they're a bit different because their balance sheet's more at the JV level than the headco level. But, we know, I'm just keen to understand if the ramp up issues they've had are sort of trending directionally to positive cash flow and all that sort of stuff, as opposed to the hiccups they were facing before.
Throw Bellevue in that one.
Yeah, I mean, they're a ramp up one, but I think their balance sheet's serviceable. But yeah, others might have more hiccup. But yeah, you're right. They could be in there next quarter.
Yeah, bloody good work, Trav. Exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I can't wait for quarterlies. I won't say that during quarterlies.
Yeah. And then quarterlies finish, and then you've got
half yearlies.
Full year, yeah.
And full year.
Which I just don't, full year, I just don't understand them yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to train me on that, all the bloody accounting shit. Righto, bloody good work, team. That was a fucking team effort.
Team effort, man.
Oh,
good footy, boys.
Speaking of
just GC, you were about half the team today. So bloody legendary, mate.
Gold.
Speaking of a good team,
you went
Matty,
hard at the footy.
how good is our team of partners? I mean,
how good's Axis?
Axis is great, mate. Bloody VRIFY is great. They're finding the stuff.
MMS is great.
Silverstone's great. CR Insurance is great.
GetWet's great.
DSI Underground is great. K-Trill is great. Spark is great. Oh,
WA Waterballs.
Gero James, how great is he?
They're all great.
Everyone's great. You're great, JD.
Everyone's bloody great. Mate.
Go Australia.
Good footy. Hootaroo.
Hootaroo.
The information contained in this episode of Money of Mine is of general nature only and does not take into account the objectives, financial situation or needs of any particular person. Before making any investment decision, you should consult with your financial advisor and consider how appropriate the advice is to your objectives, financial situation and needs.